In this video, I'm going to show you how I built these shaker-style doors for my built-in cabinets. And we're going to do it
right now.
Here we are back in my new mudroom, and I have made videos on how to build this bench seat and how to finish it with hardwood, how to build custom cabinets and custom face frames, and now we are moving on to custom shaker-style cabinet doors. And I'm pretty excited about it. And while this is definitely not the only way to make doors, this is how I'm going to do it. So if you have to do the same thing, I hope the video helps. In order to determine the size of these doors, what I did was I actually bought some hinges, so that way I can figure out exactly where these are going to land once I install them. And I do show later in the video how to install these hinges, so stay tuned. These are overlay doors, which means they will be hanging over the face frame. They're not going to be even here. They go just like that. So what I did was installed the hinge, and then when I closed this, I made a mark right here. That will be the edge of the door. And then I did the same thing on the other side and measured in between this opening and marked center. So when I hold my tape measure to those marks, I get 17 and 9/16. I'll check this side, 17 and 9/16. So that doesn't mean that I want to make the doors 17 and 9/16. I want to have a gap in between these doors for proper operation and expansion and contraction. And a good measurement to shoot for, to have a gap in between here, is 1/8 of an inch. So if I have 17 and 9/16 on both sides, I subtract a 1/16 from each one, that will give me 1/8 inch. So I want the width of my doors to be 17.5 inches. And as far as the height goes, I just hold my tape here and measure up to the opening. This is 47 3/8, and all I'm gonna do is add an inch. So 48 3/8, that way I'll have a 1/2 inch overhang over the face frame. I have my measurements for the lower doors, so now I can build them all. As far as materials go, this is what I'm gonna be using, 1x3 poplar. You can use whatever you want. Maple is like the cream of the crop when it comes to building cabinets. I chose poplar over pine because it's a little harder, a little tighter grain, and it's really hard to find straight pine boards. And this will paint really nice. You just have to properly sand it. This will be for the rails and stiles, which is kind of like the frame of the cabinet door. And then I'm going to be using 1/2 inch MDF for the panel. The reason I chose MDF is because as long as you don't get it soaking wet, it is a nice durable material and it paints very well. I'm going to cut a square cut on here. I'm going to cut the stiles first, S-T-I-L-E, which are the vertical pieces, and the rails are the ones that go in between. I don't have to rip this down. I'm just going to make these 2.5 inches wide, 48 3/8. And I want to make these pieces all exactly the same. I could do this in a big batch, but for right now, I'm just going to build one door. In order to make these exactly the same, I'm just going to line these up nice and flush. Make a mark. Make that line disappear. So these are the exact same size. I'm going to put them on my makeshift table here. Try and get something nice and solid and straight that you're building on. And then I'm going to pull these together because I want the total width 17.5 inches, but since the rails are going in between the stiles, I want to subtract whatever this is, which is exactly 5 inches. So 17.5 minus 5 inches, 12.5 is what I want to cut the rails at. Put these in between. Just take a measurement to make sure we're good. Be exactly 17 and a half. That looks good. And that is a little strong. That's 17 and 9/16. So we'll trim this one. 17 and a half. And I am going to be sanding this, but I'm also going to be painting it, so it should kind of even out with the paint swelling this up a little bit. I'm going to be assembling this from the back with pocket screws, so I want to pick my pieces and make sure I put the good side in the front. For instance, this knot right here, I can fill that, and I will, but just in case, we're going to make sure that's on the back, so we'll leave it like that. Same thing with these. There are definitely less imperfections in this poplar than a lot of the pine that I've come across, so good, like that. Typically, when you do pocket screws, it's a good idea to do, say, right here close to the edge and right here close to the edge. However, I am just gonna kind of shift them this way because I am going to router this out, and that is where my plywood is going to sit. So I just don't want the screws to interfere with that. So that's just something to keep in mind. Keep them plenty away from here. This is the pocket hole jig that I'm going to be using. It's already set for 3/4 inch material. And basically all you do is put this in here. I'm going to do it like this. You clamp it down. And this hole and this hole should work out. There'll be that space there for when I router that out. And it has a drill bit that comes with it with a stop to make some perfect pre-drilled pocket holes. And this one's nice because you can hook up a vacuum hose to it and it'll suck out that debris as I drill. Turn the vacuum on and drill. Go. Plenty of room right here, the edge. I'm gonna flip it. And the same thing on this side. Same but opposite. There you go. Looks something like that. I'm gonna do the same thing with the other piece. We're gonna do one of these at a time. I am gonna glue this and I'm gonna use Type-On 3 just because it has a longer working time, so this can move around and it's better in colder temperatures. And it's pretty cold in here right now, which could be a risk factor, by the way, for stuff to expand and contract, but I really don't have much of a choice, so hope for the best. Remember, keep these that way. And I'm going to use a piece of scrap wood. Then I'll use some clamps. Make sure this is flush right here as I tighten this up. Another one right here, as long as I'm not covering the pocket holes. And then, if you really want to, you can put another clamp if you have it, like this. It's not 100% necessary, but this will definitely make sure this goes nice and tight. These are the screws, and that jig actually comes with a bit like this. And you just hold these in at this angle. Shouldn't have to pre-drill, and install them. Then we can take the clamps off. And then just with a wet paper towel, make sure any of the glue that came through, you just wipe off. And do the same thing with the rest of them. Glue. I'm gonna put a clamp pretty much right in the middle here. And because I'm using a clamp going this way, just to make sure this is gonna be nice and flat or flush, I'll put one right here, out of the way. Last one. I'll just double check. That's 17 and a half. 17 and a half by 48 and 3/8. 48 and 3/8. Now I'm just gonna check this for square. Your cuts, since they were cut square and the pieces are already square and they're butting up like this, you should be good unless you have a huge door that you're making. You're gonna wanna check that as you attach it. But basically it's just so that the door isn't skewed like this or like this. And this is how you check for square. Hold your tape measure on one corner like this and measure down here. We have 51 and 7/16. So if I take my tape and I hold it to the opposite corner, the same exact way, and I measure here, this is just shy of 51 and 7/16. So that might be a 30-second off, and I'm totally fine with that. So you should, like I said, as it's all got square cuts, and it goes together square, you should be good. So now I have my router set up with a 1/2-inch rabbiting bit that is set to the exact depth or the thickness of this MDF. And I have my frame for my door set up on some pieces of wood, just so this bit doesn't dig in to my MDF here. And I'm just gonna go around the edge and make a nice little channel for this to sit in, kind of like that. And once I glue it all in place, it is gonna make for a nice solid door. Now, one thing I am gonna do before I start, unfortunately, it's nice that this is set perfectly, but I don't wanna take off too much material at a time. So I am actually going to adjust this so it takes off about half. So I'll start with that. And now we can set this depth all the way. Double check with our scrap piece here. There you go, should be good. Just check it, make sure we're good. I think we're good. All right, I want to go over a couple things. This is pretty much what this should look like. And we just double check, triple check, make sure our piece is going to be nice and flush. And the reason, or two reasons why you want to only take off a little material at a time is because I went a little quick over here. So there is a little bit of chipping right here, which I should be able to caulk in, it'll be fine. But the other reason is because you could get something like this, which I can just break off and sand this, and then it'll be perfect. So that's how I started to do it, and then I wanted to tell you the correct way, So I stopped myself and readjusted, and then when I went to do it again right here, this is what happened. So I did this, and then the router bit caught on this piece right here, and it started going even further. So this is the actual channel that I want, and I'm gonna end up having that kind of mess right there. So I could start over, or I could just fill this, because the inside of that cabinet, I don't really need to impress my coats and whatnot. So basically, I messed up. But the good thing is I can fix it. Stay tuned. Just gonna clean all this up. Then I'm just gonna sand off any of this stuff, any of these imperfections. I'm gonna get this stuff off of here too. Quick little tan. So now I'm just gonna measure in between the channel and cut my MDF. Put these under here just so my piece doesn't go falling on the floor. Now I have my circular saw set just past the thickness of the MDF. And if you wanted to, you could put a straight edge right here, clamp it down, and you could run this fence along to make a perfectly straight line. I think I'm going to be able to get it straight enough, but if you don't think you can and you want it to be absolutely perfect, you could do that. Just do whatever you're comfortable with. And as you can see, we need to either chisel this out to make a nice straight or square corner, or we can round over the MDF, which is what I'm going to do. This on here, put it where it needs to go. And then I can mark this. And I can cut these, the majority of it anyways. Jigsaw, and then I'll sand that off. And we test fit. Maybe trim it a little bit. Let's see. There we go. Okay, we'll make sure we're flush all the way around. I put a scrap piece of plywood under here just so I don't get glue on the MDF. And I'm just going to vacuum up all the dust. So this goes just like this. From our test fit, I know that. So I'm going to flip it like this and just take a wet paper towel, make sure all the dust is off of here, all around the edge. And the same thing in here. This will also help the glue to adhere, as long as it's not soaking wet. Now I'm going to load this up with glue. I want to definitely put enough in here before I go all the way around. I'll come back over here. I have this silicone glue brush. Woo, lots of glue. But I don't want to do too little. Now flip this over and put it in place. A little tap. Make sure it sets in everywhere. Right there. To start, get all this glue off of here since I made a mess. We're going to be sanding this down anyways, so it doesn't really matter, but I'm just going to take a scrap 2x3. Really, you could probably tape this in place, but this is what I'm going to do. Just put a couple clamps here. And just make sure it's flush all the way around. And now since I clamped it, I can lift it up like this and clean up all the glue. The glue is probably going to expand out a little bit, but it shouldn't make that much of a difference. Should be able to get some sandpaper in there, sand it off. But while that glue is drying, we can take care of a couple things like these right here. We can fill those, and I'll fix my whoopsie. So I just want to get some of the rough edges off of here. Get some of the fuzzies off. I'm going to use these pocket hole plugs. And they're going to go in just like that. And then you can sand this off. So I'll just add a little glue here. Push those into place. Give them a little tap. Make sure they're set all the way in. And clean up this glue. Do the same thing for all of them. So I wasn't going to, but since I made a whoopsie, I'm going to use Bondo wood filler. Just for that spot. And if you don't know anything about Bondo, it is a two-part process. So you have this in here. I'm going to take just about that much. Put it on preferably a non-porous surface like that. And then this is the hardener. I'm going to mix that up a little bit. And add some hardener to this. And then I'm going to mix this up. Basically just want to get it so there's a nice uniform color. And once it looks nice and mixed, nice and uniform, we can apply it. I'm just going to tuck it right in here. You could use this all the way around. Just don't think it's going to be necessary for the whole thing. Just these big gaps. And hopefully I don't have to do 2 coats. I could probably do the second coat with the other filler that I'm going to use. But I might as well use this up. This should all be dry now, so I'm going to take this 2x3 off. I can flip this over and show you how it came out. So we have our 1/4 inch right here, solid 1/2 inch MDF and poplar. These are nice and flush. We're going to be sanding this whole thing anyways, but we're going to start back here. I'm going to use some 80 grit sandpaper on a random orbital sander and take these down so they're flush and get the bulk of this Bondo sanded off. This did shrink up, so I will have to hit it again. Now back to my original plan plastic wood. This stuff is great. It dries in about 15 minutes, and you're gonna wanna only use a little bit at a time. So I like to use about that much, and then try and quickly fill this in, work it right in there. I'll go right over the Bondo too, just to make sure we're good there. This is drying up already. We'll fill in these right here. You can definitely overfill this and sand off the excess. Since that's drying up, that's what I'll do. Once this is all sanded out, just gotta get the dust off of it, use a tack cloth, wipe it down, and it's ready for primer. But before I do that, I'm gonna build the rest of these doors. I already have 3 of these doors built, so I just need 1 more, and then I need 4 smaller doors. This width is gonna be the exact same, but the height is going to be different. So this is 13 3/8. I'll just make these 14.5 and have them hang down just about the same. I think that's gonna be good. So, I got some building to do. So I have all my doors laid out here, all sanded, and to save you a bunch of time with sanding, all I did was I used 60 grit first to get everything nice and flush, and then I sanded everything, all the rails and stiles, with 80 grit, and then 120 grit, and then I did the whole panel with 150, and I used a pencil to mark it so I knew that I was sanding it nice and even. I also just rounded these edges off because it will help the paint stick, because if this gets hit, it will be much more likely that it will not chip off if it's rounded than if it was just a square edge. And then I cleaned up any glue that was in here, sanded a little bit, used a fine sanding sponge to get any of the fuzzies off. And there you go, ready for primer. And as far as priming goes, I am gonna use a sprayer. I have used a sprayer before, but I'm not that good at it. So please excuse my technique. But I did brush and roll this to start with primer and the actual paint, and it didn't come out as good as I had hoped for. So I ended up sanding it all off of the one door that you saw and using the sprayer, and it came out way better. I'm not gonna go into a ton of detail on how to spray. You can brush and roll it if you want, but this is what I'm gonna do. And hopefully it comes out good. So I'm gonna do 1 coat of primer on the front and the back, starting with the back, because that'll be easier, and I need more practice with this. All right, now we let it dry. After the primer coat, I sanded that with some fine grit sandpaper. I caulked in the cracks between the MDF and the poplar, and then I started with the paint. And that's where things got a little bit tricky, because I needed to keep the garage over 50 degrees, and I'm not set up to have a spray booth or anything like that, and I just bought a sprayer, so I'm not great at it. But I did try my best. So I tried to maintain the garage temperature above 50 degrees. And another thing about the paint I chose, which was Benjamin Moore Advanced, is that you need to let it dry or cure for 16 hours. So since I was doing one side at a time and I wanted to do 2 or 3 coats, this process took a long time. And I made sure to sand in between coats with a variety of different grits of sandpaper and wet sanding, and again, making sure that all the dust was off with a tack cloth. So I think they came out pretty good. I did learn a lot about using the sprayer, and they do have some flaws, but so don't people. It is what it is. But we're ready to put the hinges on and install them. Because of some of the imperfections, I have these laid out the way that I want to install them to kind of hide those. And I would definitely suggest doing something like this before you drill into here, because these are the type of hinges that I'm using. Just like that piece that I showed before, I cut a piece of plywood to the exact height of one of these doors, and I just line this up and put it where it's gonna go, like that, and took all my measurements just to make sure that I'm good, this is gonna work. So now I'm ready to install the hinges. You can most certainly install these hinges without one of these, but this jig is gonna make this way easier. I'm doing 20 hinges, so I figured I would make an investment. And basically what you do is you line this up. It has measurements right here, so you can put your hinges wherever you want. What I'm gonna do is just hold it to the edge right here for my first hinge. For the bigger doors, I'm gonna put 3 hinges in, and for the smaller ones, I'll put 2. You have this bit right here, which is 1 3/8, it looks like. And you put this in here, and it locks on like this. It has a stop collar, which will stop when you hit the proper depth. These go in about 1/2 inch. You can also adjust this right here, which is basically how far your hinge is going to be set in this way. And I have this set so that I believe it says right here 1/8 inch from the edge, and that will make it so the overlay is 1 1/4 like I want. So I'm gonna put this here like this, clamp it down, and do all my hinges. And as you're securing this jig, just make sure these are tight, and then you can clamp it. I would suggest definitely doing 2 clamps. Make sure it doesn't move. And then we drill. So you get to that stop collar, and you can take this off. I'm gonna vacuum all this up. Now I have a 1/16 inch pilot bit. This is where the screws are gonna go for the hinge. You can put a piece of tape on here so you don't drill through the door, but I put the bit in so that this will actually stop me. So it's impossible to go through the door. Move the jig. We have a perfectly bored hole for your hinge. The hinge sits in just like that. And your hinge is installed, and I just have to do that 19 more times. But before I move on, I do want to talk about hinge restrictors, because these are so hard to find ones that work with your hinges. So I'm going to leave a link in the description over to where you can get these, and they work with these hinges. They don't work with all of them, but with these particular ones, they do. And if you don't know what a hinge restrictor does, right here, this, if you can picture, is the face frame. This door is going to be hitting the wall. If it's like this, and the 2 doors in the middle will be hitting each other. So what you do is you take these hinge restrictor clips and you put them right in here. Make sure they're snapped in. And then when you open the door, it will restrict it. So now it'll basically be straight out. So it won't hit the wall, and hopefully the doors won't hit in the middle. So I'm going to put all those on too before I install these. one in the center. I don't think I need a hinge restrictor in the middle. So on the top, I want to have this overlay 1/2 inch. So I'm just gonna mark that lightly. And these hinges do have slight adjustments on them. Might be helpful to have 2 people doing this. But as you know, I have no friends. So I'm gonna make the hinge tight right here. This face, push it tight, line it up to my 1/2 inch mark, something like that. Then I can pre-drill in here, right in the center of that hole. Soft close. It's a little high, so the good thing is you can adjust these up and down and in and out. If this was rubbing here, I would adjust it in and out. You can also adjust it if you have warped doors to kind of line these up, which we'll do when I put this one on. And for the hinge restrictors, that's why I put them in there. The moment of truth is if they line up and if there is an 1/8 inch gap or so. Wow. So that is about what I want for a gap. You can see on the bottom, it's a little bigger. That's totally fine. I will adjust the hinges and I can make this perfectly even. It's not bad right now, but so I'll adjust them. Pretty good. And to complete the install, I'm going to take these little gel button things and use them as bumpers. Just put them all the way up in each corner. Yeah. That makes me happy. Let's do these top ones now. And once these are all adjusted, it looks great. Kind of surprised myself with this one. Let's hope this side works out the same. I'll install these. And after a little bit of adjusting, the space in between the doors are fairly even, and I think they look great. I'm happy with the way they came out. So, if you needed to do something like this, I hope the video helped. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make these doors. Right now. I didn't glue that, Lauren. Why didn't you? Obviously make this shorter, Lauren. A lot of fumbling here, Mr. Fumbelina. Oh, I didn't need to go to that piece. Damn it, Lauren. Why didn't you tell me? Right there, Lauren. It's probably a 64th off. Might be a 16th off. Or a 32nd. I'm gonna call that 7/16. It might be a 32nd short, but we're good. Lauren, you know what? Cut both of those parts out. I'm gonna cover it all right now, Lauren. Hold on, start it over. What's out? I just definitely want this MDF to have plenty of glue. Okay, fine, that might be a little too much. Oh, you idiot. Don't show this. What are you doing? I just don't want to bend this too much like that because it's bowed. Cut all that out. Splinter, where'd it go? Ow! Gorge. Gorge. Can we do all that again?
I have no idea what I'm doing. Spare me the professional painting advice. I told you, I'm not good at it. Oh, I am spraying you. Just put a little more primer on that. Wish I could do both sides at once. Alas, I cannot.
They do have some flaws, but so don't I. That was cool, but it made a mess. Bet that was a pretty cool shot.
Such delicate work.
I ain't gonna say none. Right now. No, Coda, no. Poplar. You're gonna be poplar. It is the second week in April, and we got snow. Come on, New England. Get it together. I think we should do a find the mini fixer, and I'll hide them in each video. Kind of like Seinfeld with the Superman? I think it was Superman. Maybe we'll do that. You can look for him and let me know. There he is now. Stay tuned.